When I was young, I got into climbing when I was a teenager. I was reading magazines and I saw images of rock towers. When I realized that there were these spires out in these remote places, I had this super strong feeling that was kind of my destiny in life. The Eneti Desert in Chad is a pretty obscure place.
I just thought, okay, Chad, somewhere in Africa. I didn't realize I was coming to such a hellhole.
You get sand whipping into you all the time. It is kind of unpleasant. And just this godforsaken land.
To come to an area where nobody on Earth had come climbing before was kind of amazing, you know?
I don't think James and Alex knew what they were getting into. And realistically, I didn't know what I was getting into. Someone said that we had covered 400 of the 800 kilometers so far. We're in the second vehicle, so we're just eating dust.
So when you sign up for a trip with Mark, you know that it's going to involve some kind of crazy location, some kind of crazy scene. There's going to be a lot of uncertainty where you don't really know if you're going to get there.
Today we're going to keep driving across the desert. It'll be bumpy.
I never expected in a million years that the way that you would get to the Eneti was just by randomly driving across the desert for days on end without any roads.
Just the stories that he comes out with. Has this reputation of, being able to go to fairly inaccessible places and always have a bit of an adventure.
It wore on us, and we're starting to think, God, I really hope this is worth it, and you're also starting to wonder, how is there going to be anything out here? Then you turn a corner and you look off in the horizon and you're like, okay, there it is, there's the promised land. My goal all along has been to hopefully find towers like this that people haven't climbed before and be the one who pioneers the first ascent. And for whatever reason, I absolutely love climbing these things.
So, which tower do you want to climb today?
It's not the most perfect placement.
Alex and James are 24, 25 years old, and I'm 40, so there's a pretty big difference there. The way that it manifests itself is in the risk-taking and the amount of risk that people are willing to accept.
If I fell, I was going to take a fairly big fall onto a ledge in a really dangerous situation. First ascent of the tower, first route of the trip, the first rock climbing the Eneti.
So while I'm sitting there belaying James, I'm looking over, I'm like, whoa, there goes Honnold. He climbed 5 towers solo. You have Honnold on the one hand, who's hands down the boldest person that I've ever met. Then you have James, who is this master trad climber. Well, I don't think he's as bold and willing to take risks as Honnold, but he's still way, way beyond myself. Both of them much bolder than I was when I was their age. What happens once you have a family is that you start thinking more and more about the impact that it would have if something happened to you. The climber in me and the adventurer that wants to go off and do all these crazy trips, and they're always going to be risky. It's pretty hard to find the balance, but I'm trying. That's kind of like my struggle, and it's what I'm working on right now in my life.
It's exciting to finally be inside the promised land. You know, it's got a lot of potential. It seems like the rock's pretty good.
Well, Mark and I come from very different backgrounds in climbing, I think. The same way I just don't love towers quite as much as he does, you know, but whatever, that's just personal preference. I definitely have come to climbing more from an athletic type background. To me, it's more about physical achievement. I cannot believe how completely booped I am. I've never climbed anything quite like this, where you actually climb the entire arch, where you could start on one side and end on the other.
That was the hardest I've tried on anything, and I don't even know how long. I have my whole body being ugh.
You know, I like doing these little adventures from time to time, but I definitely don't fantasize about it the way Mark does. And I think I would call Mark a modern explorer. He's coming to Africa bringing one book that's a biography of Marco Polo. I think that's so telling.
Climbing with Mark has been really, really good for me. He has a bit of a reputation of being able to go to these fairly unknown places, which usually turn out to be a little shitty, but still have an amazing time and come back with non-climbing stories and adventures that are worth more than any climbing ever could be. I think when you're young, you find yourself in situations that are just idiotic and out of control. Sometimes I still get a bit carried away, which is great when you have people like Mark who can kind of rein me back in a little bit. His career's been super long, so obviously he's doing something right to still be successful in the game. These are all things that I would really like to emulate.
Oh my God. The other person that's a big part of this adventure is Piero. He's our guide and our outfitter.
I can't imagine what inspired him to come to the desert like this and to be here for almost 40 years. He's raised his family here, and it's his whole life.
I am 62 years old and I come from Milan, Italy. La prima volta, sì, era un'avventura, perché nessun turista era mai stato in questo deserto. Ho trovato davanti un sacco di incognite. We have some attack from outlaw. They keep a car, they keep all money, which Kalashnikov is not good. But any work has some part is not good.
One thing that's really cool about Piero's company is the fact that it's a family affair. He started it with his wife, and he has 2 kids who help run it.
I think that there was one single feature which really stood out to everybody on the team.
Formation, which is basically a tower and an arch. The most unbelievable and unlikely piece of rock that you could imagine. Unfortunately, it happens to be located super deep in the Aneti, about as far into it as you can get. Wasn't really clear whether we would be able to make it that far. There was some problems with the drive, some difficult terrain that we would have to get through.
Finally, we made it down here, and it's safe to say it was a very, very good decision because this thing's amazing.
basically X-rated climbing. I find myself in a situation where I'm not even willing to belay somebody on something because it's that dicey.
We got benighted, dark came in and we had to bail. So we're up again at 4:30 this morning.
James is gonna get it done. I think it's gonna be pretty scary. Getting up high, like several hundred feet above the desert floor, and then taking in the 360-degree panorama. You feel the intensity of where you are kind of just wash over you. Would really be psyched to explore some more around here. I mean, there's towers everywhere we look. It's basically an unlimited bonanza. I'm already looking forward to my next trip. It's gonna happen someday. Maybe I'll come here with my family.
I hope that this has been a good learning experience for me. I mean, I feel like it has at the minute.
I'm surprised by how much we have climbed. Like, the rock is much better than it could have been.
What I've learned from the trips that I've been on so far is just that the world is super vast and there's essentially like an unlimited supply of this stuff. Places that you see, but even more important, the people that you meet, the cultural experiences that you have.
È difficile dire perché si ama il deserto. È un po' come quando domandi a un alpinista perché ami la montagna.
Does anybody have a mini traction? Scrambling it.
Ti guarda di piano.